Content warnings for this episode: sexual assault, police violence, sexism and racism.
Gemini, 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 Movie Podcast. Gemini, 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 Movie Podcast. Yeah.
Hello, everyone, for everyone's favorite podcast about Gemini movies, twin movies. This time, you're not talking about Pinocchio. Happy days! Happy days, everyone.
It's year one after Pinocchio. I'm Ludovico. I'm one of the hosts of this show.
And I'm Alice Water, the main host. Today we are covering two movies, getting straight in the Strawberry Statement. But before we're gonna do our introduction format. This time we changed the format a bit. We're gonna still go on for a second about what we did this month. That's we're gonna instead of just talking about the best things we watched, we're gonna just show and tell one thing. So let's start. I'll start with you, Ludo. What did you do, and what did you want to show?
Okay, so I guess the big thing that took up a bunch of time this month for me was finally getting to play Disco Elysium. I just waited until it was very cheap. So that's why I didn't play it for 3-4 years now. It's been a while since that game came out. But yeah, I finally played through it 2.5 times. It's very funny and interesting. I already gifted it to another friend, so I can hear what he has to say about it. It's definitely the best CRPG I ever played, I think. Mostly because I actually finished it, which doesn't usually happen with those kind of games for me. Setting is unique and interesting. The skill system is very unique and interesting. Yeah, it's the same commentary for both. The whole game is unique and interesting. So yeah, had a lot of fun with that, and I definitely recommend it to people if they can stomach the massive load of content warning that game has. But it's worth your time. It was a good time.
Yeah. What's your favorite character?
That's so hard. There's 10 characters that are great and interesting. I guess I'm gonna go easy. I'm gonna go with Kuno because he's a bastard. He's funny. He's a little speed kid.
It's very funny just because I have issues with this colorism and everything. I don't think it's so worth playing. It's I do like Kuno because he's basically just people I know as a kid basically, and I think that's interesting. I've seen kids like him.
Yeah,
often.
That's the thing. If you know real dirtbag kids, you kind of sympathize with Kuno because you remember, or you maybe were even like him.
And I don't think later they do some very interesting work and stuff. So he's just not another comedy character. He has actually some very good writing.
Yeah, he has some interiority for a comedic relief character,
which I think Disco does well. But yeah, that's very nice. This is the start of the year. They're not doing a lot. But I've been still on my Pokemon quest because I played the newest Pokemon game last year. Liked it, so I'm just playing a bunch of Pokemon and then Master Collection games. I'm currently playing one, but I still haven't finished it, so I'm gonna just put it to next month. I'm gonna talk about it. So I finished Pokemon Sword and Shield, which is Gen 8. It's the last generation for the current one. It's based on the UK. I have 3 things. I'll first talk very quickly. The main story in this is very bizarre. Because so the main story is basically you're just going to the Pokemon League that they make it soccer stadiums because it's the UK one. Pokemon does it as a tourism thing. So they turn Pokemon battles into just soccer stadiums, which I think is very funny. But I think it's very interesting is how this game is kind of so the main story of this game, one of the main stories is there's an energy crisis in British Pokemon land. But it's interesting because nothing actually happens with that. like adult characters literally tell you, don't worry, we adults are gonna handle that. And even when you defeat the main villain, which is the president of Pokemon UK, and he says that he's doing this to solve the energy crisis, at the end of the battle, it goes, don't worry, kid, just the adults will fix this. Thanks for fighting the bad guy. Which I think is just kind of a weird thing to put even in like a kids game. Because it's kind of even even I hate this, kind of anti even the Halo Sony. Because they set up a plot, they put you doing that, and they just can say, oh, don't worry, the adults will handle that. The story.
That is pretty weird. Although I guess the world saving mostly happens by like beating up some villain team in a lot of the other Pokemon games, and then the main plot is just personal goal reaching of beating up the strongest trainer.
Yeah, this game is weird because it is the start of they replace the villain teams with basically fandom. It's just a bunch of soccer hooligans who like a gorilla. That's it. They're funny though. Anyway, the main thing I want to talk about is I played the 2 DLCs and I like them a lot. The first DLC is the Isle of Armor, which it's a bit talking about the historical concept. This is a setting based on the UK, but it's an homage to like 70s Hong Kong action movies. The main Pokemon you fight in this is just a boostly Pokemon. But in design, it's very nice because it's just going to this big island and you do base like dojo training. And once you actually finish it all, you take steps and go on this big mountain to involve like boostly Pokemon and to base into it. You get good guy, fighting guy martial artists, and then like basically you can transform it into a Kuma basically. And the design is very nice because you got this very like spacious areas where you can just catch Pokemon and then basically do mysteries and stuff like that. It's pretty nice. The second DLC that I really liked, Clan Tundra, which is basically Pokemon Scotland, is very nice because it's very episodic. You basically have like 5 things you can do. You basically meet this guy who's a dad, who's like his dad doesn't want to do an expedition thing in like Pokemon Scotland, so he gets you, and he basically like catch legendary Pokemon. But the way it's done, it's basically you can do them in any order, and like they all have like tokusatsu titles. So like one of them is like the monster from space, and the term is very pulpy because you're like catching monsters and folk beings. So the writing is surprisingly good, and you just like how the game design is done is basically the whole area is very open world, but because it's just a small area, you just interact with these things, you solve mysteries. To actually find these creatures, you have to actually think of it, which I think is interesting. So Pokemon, it has this, but it's pretty decent, like always.
Pokemon,
I guess that's my last.
Pretty good.
That's my last thing I'll say, honestly, because before we start the main podcast, it's like I've seen so many people like. There was like the whole controversy with this game because they did not include every Pokemon because turns out there's like a million of them, so they cannot code every Pokemon to this fucking game anymore.
No,
but
they
yeah,
should.
like
they should exploit the workers harder.
Yeah, they should put them in more. But anyway, people like saying like this game is the worst and everything. I think people like this is very much the case of like, it is very repetitive, but at the same time, this is just like. It's because you just play the bunch of them. Like, me having not played Pokemon in a while, I can just play a bunch of them and be repetitive and that be fine. Because I haven't played them. Once you consume them so much, every part of your life, it becomes a bit more dull. But like, if it's like just a separate, like just me hyper-focusing on Pokemon right now and playing them, it's like, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay, but why didn't they put Vega in Street Fighter 6? I played so much Street Fighter. I demand that every character is in there.
Yeah, you should put in Robot Guy. That's my favorite.
Put in the weep football player from Alpha.
Anyway, let's talk about movies. We love movies. We talk about the movies.
Yeah, this is a movie podcast, by the way.
Yeah,
we're gonna talk about movies now. Today we got 2 campus revolt movies that are both like from 1970, and they're. Yeah, what do you think? What did you think of these 2?
Just checking, quick at this. Don't we do history before we talk about...
No, we
Or
need a short overview of how we like the movies.
Before we do the movie history?
That's why I
background.
told you to have the podcast structure open. Or did I not tell you
have it
that?
open. No, I have that open. I just haven't
Yeah,
said
short
anything. But
overview.
anyway.
How did we like the movies? That's where we at. And then it's cultural or historical content.
Anyway, let's just go. I like both movies. This was a surprise because, to be honest, I was really after so much Pinocchio that we would like have, you would have to just like, you just have like one good movie or just two bad movies, and it was just like after so much Pinocchio, we'd have not a good time. But it's like I like both movies surprisingly. I think both movies have things to enjoy about them and things that I think are interesting. Even for specifically the things of like this is like 70s Hollywood, still very mainstream. So, but even now, the stuff in this movies, and even at the time that most hard-to-handle movies would like stay away from. So like, I think even from that perspective, I think they're really interesting. I like both. I don't think I even have a perfect like. I think you can just watch Getting Straight or Strawberry Statement and have a decent time. Or just if you like thinking about movies, it's like the good ones to think about.
Yeah, I mostly agree with that. I think in doing research, I definitely started veering more towards Getting Straight than Strawberry Statement, but I still think both movies are very enjoyable and provide something unique to like inform you a bit about like the culture of the time and the political discourse. So yeah, it's very interesting from that perspective. So that brings us to the disco 70s. No, this is 1970s, so it was still the hippie era basically. This is the moment where it all turns bad for the hippies because Getting Straight got released like a week after the Kent State shooting, which was the first time that college students got shot by the army in America.
Yeah.
Which, that was like a very dark point. There's a bunch of protests that followed that. There's some bizarre stuff you can go look up. For example, go look up the hard hat revolt or protest that was in New York.
Yeah.
That shit's pretty fucked up.
Some shouts out to my favorite guys. I forgot their name, but Dennis Leary and some hippies tried to levitate the Pentagon. It's extremely funny. Go look it up.
Yeah.
Shouts out to Dennis Leary.
Yeah, thanks to Timothy Leary for all you did.
Oh, not that. That's just like the best comedian, not Timothy.
Yeah, you said the wrong Leary, I think.
Wow. Anyways, let's out to the Dolphin LSD guy.
So yeah, I
I
think
feel
you
like
all know about 60s culture and the anti-war movement. So I think that should settle it in terms of like what kind of culture this is going to be about. What's astonishing is how little a lot has changed in American society when it comes as like college campuses as a political battleground, basically. Like you could change around a couple elements in Getting Straight and you could make a movie about modern campus politics. Could just exchange black studies with critical race theory and like feminist studies with LGBT stuff, and you would have a movie set in the 2020s.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting from that angle. So yeah. Do you have anything to add for this? Oh, you should talk about New Hollywood.
Yeah, New Hollywood. So it's interesting. So this movies are very much interesting as in terms of production of movies, history in terms of American cinema. So I think most people know this, but New Hollywood's like this movement from the 60s. It was inspired by the fact that during the 50s, specifically like during the late 50s, Hollywood was very much like a dying thing, like a dying carcass. The 60s was a time when like international cinema were like a lot, like Fresh New Wave was happening, stuff like that. A lot of very interesting experimental cinema in various forms, even like in children's media, even in animation, stuff like that. Just art was very much becoming interesting like late 60s, mid 60s. And Hollywood was very much like that's not doing that, and specifically there's a lot of people going outside of the system or even inside the system trying to like make art inspired by the hippie revolt, like the often considered like the first like new Hollywood movies, of course, easy vital. So it's interesting. So you started seeing, of course, movies talking about more a lot this kind of very artistic movement of like trying to push taboos at the time in Hollywood, trying to revolutionate like filming techniques, and this went to like the 60s, but of course very much solidified the last part of New Hollywood and like the new generation of Hollywood directors inspired by international cinema and what was happening in American society. Very much took fully over was like Taxi Driver, basic, not like stuff like Taxi Driver, Godfather, basically stuff like that. Your Scorsese's, your Coppolas,
Yeah.
etc., etc. Story statement and getting straight away in test because they're both listed even the Wikipedia page for new Hollywood, and they're both like very much interesting because New Hollywood is still very much kind of tame in a lot of what it talked about during the 60s at least. Even later, but that's for another podcast. But getting straight and both subway statement even go kind of more far away from like new from like a lot of other New Hollywood stuff, at least from the studio system, as it became assimilated, became like co-opted by the studio system. So I think they're both very interesting parts of that, and also very interesting part of like a middle period of still like figuring out what New Hollywood is. So there's both also very much like production history that's very interesting, like film history.
Yeah. So I think we established both the film and the political history side pretty well. Now, I guess let's get into cast and acting.
Yeah.
We're going to start
it's
with
a
Getting
time.
Straight. I'm going to just read off some of the lead roles. We have Elliot Gould as Harry Bailey, Candice Bergen as Jan, Harrison Ford as Jake, Max Julian as Ellis, and Jeff Corey as Dr. Edward. The name is not showing fully. Edward Wilhunt? Edward Wilhunt. Okay. So, how did you like the cast and acting in this movie, Alex?
It's pretty good. It's very 70s. This is a very 70s movie. But I think it's pretty good. It's like that kind of like low-key 70s style. I think everyone does good performances. I'm already a big Elliot Gould fan. I love a lot of Elliot Gould movies and a lot of his performances. He's very good in this, playing kind of an asshole, but like then figuring out what actually his like ideology. And then just when he explodes, he's very good at playing like a very righteous in a good way or bad way asshole. When he explodes in this movie, you really feel that.
Yeah,
like
he's
it's very
incredible
good.
at these parts.
Like he is very good. He's like a 70s, like a very like old like Hollywood 70s, both old and old Hollywood like 70s guy, and you can feel that. You can feel like a lot of like that very much like explosive energy, kind of low back, but also kind of a bit weird energy, and very good. I really like Edit Good in this. It's Karen Berger.
Yeah, she's the
Candice Bergen.
main woman lead.
She's also very good in this. This movie has issues with women because it's a 70s Hollywood movie, but she's still very good at doing performances, and even also can do a bit of like. She's also a bit explosive, like Elliot Gould, like doing these performances, and like when she needs to be loud and explosive, she's very good at that. Also,
I think they have good chemistry together, she and Gold.
Yeah.
They're like playing off each other in a very intimate way, like they know each other.
yeah, it works because, like I said, this movie has like a very kind of laid back energy, so it's like it works at those moments because a lot of those moments are like very small, but then when it's very much like exploding at each other, the synergy works very nice. I like that a lot. The rest of the cast I think is solid. I think all of this is very good. Also, of course, shouts out to Harrison Ford, who has a very tiny role, but is very funny in this actually.
Yeah, this is very early Harrison Ford.
Yeah, this was before he got like a bunch of Star Wars money and then just spent his life flying airplanes in his private vans.
Yeah.
I think overall the cast is very good. I think every character is playing very nice, doing everything. I think it's very much all like I've said. I'll talk more about this. The script is like very laid back. It doesn't know when to explode for the finale. But I think every actor is doing that very nice, like playing very much kind of laid back roles or like more stone roles. And then when everything goes kaboom, they go kaboom in a good way. It's solid. Would you say the same, Ludo?
It's a pretty prolific cast for like I guess a director who's not like gigantic.
Yeah.
And Elliot Gould is just like the star of this show. It's amazing. Like I wasn't that much into Gould before this movie, but he plays the kind of character of like this mixture of like an asshole that has that tries to be a good person.
Yeah.
That I used to really like love this kind of character, and I still dig it if it's like done well. So that's incredible. Candice Bergen is very good in like doing this counterplay to him, which I think this movie does better than Strawberry Statement, but we're gonna get into that on the plot. Max Julian is like the leader of basically the black section of the resistance group there, of like the student protest. I think he does a very good job. Like he's very charismatic.
I almost forgot to mention, but I also recommend people looking up his history. He's like a very interesting actor. Only did like a couple roles, but like also wrote, directed, started like a lot of important blaxploitation work. And he's just a very fascinating person to look up actor.
Yeah, I really liked him in this. I want to see more movies he's in. So yeah, that's basically all for cast and acting.
Yeah. I forgot which one, but I think who's the actor of the Dean guy?
I think that's Jeff Corey.
Yeah, he's like he's also has a lot of interesting history. He's a very good actor in this. That so he was like actually one of those people like he was like a communist that was like put in the house and American activities, and somehow when actually never selling out anyone, somehow managed to survive a bit in Hollywood.
Yeah, he got blacklisted for a while, right?
See, but then managed to return on like a lot of people, and then just managed to be in movies like this. And that's a fascinating person. The cast in this is surprisingly fascinating.
Yeah.
A lot of very interesting characters and people. But yeah, let's go to Strawberry Statement.
The Strawberry Statement, we have the lead roles of... I guess we're gonna have to get into this now, because the guy who's the writer is also in the cast.
Yeah, we need to talk about that. We're going to put a content warning about this for sexual assault and stuff like that. The writer of this is like a very famous playwright. Can you say his name, Ludo?
Israel Horowitz.
Yeah, he's like a very famous playwright. He's also a sex pastor, and had like he was like one of the early like Me Too. When the movement was getting bigger, he was like one of the early people who was like just a astral piece of theater.
Yeah.
So what I recommend this that has the caveat of like this was written in stars like a real awful person. It's like I'm gonna put an article about this.
And we're gonna get into it in the plot, but like it shows. The signs are there in terms of the writing of women in this movie.
Yeah.
It's not very good. Like they're both movies have sexist stuff, but like. Strawberry Statement definitely takes the strawberry cake.
Yeah, there's like we'll talk about this later, but like even for Hollywood, even for 70s Hollywood, this thing has issues. But yeah, let's go with the rest of the cast though.
Also, we got Bruce Davison as Simon, Bob Balaban as Elliot 2. I don't know what this means because there's also Bud Cort who is Elliot 1. Apparently, there's 2 Elliots in this movie, and don't remember. Kim Darby as Linda, she's the woman lead. Israel Horowitz is Dr. Benton. He's playing a professor, I think. And that's basically the main characters. So yeah, these are all lesser known people. Like this is the less prolific cast of both. How did you like it, Alice?
I think I will talk about this more later. We'll talk about how this is solved and stuff. This reminds me a lot of like I watch a lot because I'm very much myself. I watch a lot of 70s like American TV. So like I watch like Columbo and stuff. So like this feels we'll talk about this later, but this very much feels like a TV production. So like a lot of the art is like very like TV like, but also it's very much very even more. And I can describe like Getting Straight acting as like low back. This is very much like a very pared back, like we move it. It's very on purpose minimalist. Like the way the characters emote and everything, it feels like you're just. It kind of feels like weird people, but like a very like on purpose, like very much like minimalist person for weird person with how they talk.
Yeah, it's
Like-
hard to describe like how the acting in this works. It's kind of naturalist, but also I don't know.
Yeah, I would say the bad guy we mentioned before was like I mentioned, is a playwright, and this makes sense in the context of theater because from what I've seen, he was doing a lot of like this kind of like social issues plays in the 70s, and like a lot of theater is this, you know. A lot of theater can be like this kind of like very kind of naturalistic dialogue and laid back, but also it's still not a weird person. It's kind of more like an approximation of a weird person. Like
I think
it feels with
the TV movie vibe could also come from the director, like being from
Yeah.
advertisement, and this being his first full feature.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But I think for what the role is done, like I said, I think the laid back acting is mostly done well. I think how it's played back as well. I think everyone's doing decent performances. Like I don't think this is bad acted in any way.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it bad acting. It's more of like it's when you compare it with the very expressive, strong acting in Getting Straight. This is more going for a more naturalistic, chill vibe. Like there is strong emotions in parts, but most of the movie is like everybody trying to seem cool. Like everybody's kind of not giving a shit, but like in the way that young people would do. So it makes sense, but it also leads to a like less impressive acting job overall, because there's like no big speeches that really catch you. There are some big speeches, but they're like the fantasies of the main character.
Yeah, it's like what the like I mentioned, like I was mentioning, like Elliot Good, like in Getting Straight, like Elliot Good is like a very much classical, like it's well new Hollywood, like much like now classical Hollywood guy. Like you got the other Neils, your Pacinos, your stuff like that. People who like very much can like do kind of graphy assholes, but like can emote a lot.
Yeah, it's a performance
Was
that draws you in.
Which very much comes from like Marlon Brando. Like it's an evolution of like Marlon Brando's like style that we call method acting, but now it's because of bad method acting. It's now not method acting. It's the whole thing.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like. But yeah, it's like an evolution of that style of like Men in Blonde, like Sweet Card Named Desire, stuff like that. In a way, made in the 70s, compared to this is much more, you know, like just laid back, calm.
Yeah,
kind of
I guess it really sells you more on like these are just people in comparison
Yeah,
to like Getting Straight, where the characters are a bit larger than life often.
It's very much like, you know, it's very much like very much more of a vibe movie.
Yeah, definitely. We're gonna get
Okay,
into
yeah.
that.
Do you have anything else about the acting?
No, I think we can get to the plot of Getting Straight.
Yeah.
So
summarize it?
we're not gonna get a full plot synopsis. Go watch the movie or read the Wikipedia. But the basic gist is a guy's inner turmoil. Wait. Wow, I can't read my own reading. Give me a second. Whoa. I can't read the word I wrote. Okay, a guy's inner turmoil mirrored with the slow escalation of a student protest movement really nails the dynamics. Yeah, I didn't finish that sentence apparently in my notes. But it's very much like a personal story crossed with like a political event. And like a character coming to terms with his own political beliefs and like having to choose between becoming like a normal guy and standing up for the stuff he believes in.
Yeah.
That's basically the story.
Yeah,
It's a guy who's trying to become a professor and doing his master's, and meanwhile the whole college movement happens around him, and he's basically in some kind of paradox where he's both for it and against it in some aspects.
Yeah. It's very interesting. Like I don't think either of these movies are plot movies. They're more like about using the plot for its themes, for its ideas, for like as a way to look at that of color protests in America.
Yeah.
I think I think the plot what it is pretty good. I think there's like just it's surprisingly well paced. It's slow in the first half, then the second half really gets going. So I think I'm messing this now. This is messing as a comedy, and interviews messing as a comedy. It's weird as a comedy.
It has funny bits because the main character is so expressive about everything he thinks. He uses like funny sentences to describe shit, but the core of the movie is pretty serious, I feel.
It's very much one of those things where, like, at least in like America, this is different by other cultures and countries, but like because what we think of comedy these days is very much like when you think comedy movie or not movies humor, it's much more broad, much more like like your violence movies.
Yeah.
This doesn't register as one of those. Even though
Richard Rush, the director, actually talks about this in interviews because he gets asked, because he was like an early adopter of mixing these like very serious elements with very comedic stuff, which wasn't that usual at that time.
Yeah.
And this is apparently something that recurs in almost all of his movies, and I think that's why they often get like retroactively seen as comedies, because they have this mix of serious and funny things.
Yeah, it's very much one of those things like American culture. Like this is also some Western culture, like also some hard. Like specifically in America, a lot of media is either 100% serious or 100% like comedic. It's starting to be a difference now, even some prestige media, but like specifically in that past, that wasn't like putting like comedy like a serious thing, was not like seen as like something new. Yeah. So like you can notice this backlash, specifically not backlash, but like you can notice like how that loose even now confuses a bit, because when I see like an American comedy, I expect something a bit more wild, a bit more Looney Tunes, and like than just this. But I think it's interesting, specifically how we talk also about summer and stuff. But yeah, I think also talking about the plot, the movie knows how to pace stuff, knows how to pace the comedy bits with the more serious elements at some point at the same time, which I think is very nice. Like is it the dinner scene?
Yeah,
like,
the dinner scene
like,
where they're at the like neoliberal perfect atomic family,
which is very funny. There's also a party scene. They go to a party, right? Also.
Yeah.
And that party scene is very good because it has a lot of humor, but also knows it's using the humor as an explosive, because they're getting both Richard Ed Good and Candice Bergen. It's like they're both just at this party don't like each other, very much explosive. So like the jokes are there to help as an explosive storytelling ways of like, oh yeah, these people don't like each other. Till you reach the moment of like, oh yeah, these people like literally almost gonna murder each other, and they just
they're ragging on each other in comedic ways, but it's also like a serious conflict they have in their relationship.
Like I've said, this is not really a plot movie, but what is that least the plot is very much nice. The plot is very much a way to just go to scene in a way that's I feel is very well done.
Yeah,
it's very 70s in how it's like. It's very much part of like that 70s like back in a low-key storytelling. The way the storytelling was much more looser in a way I like it. So, but yeah, I think it's very good. Strawberry Statement.
The slow radicalization of a college student who starts out chasing after a girl involved in a protest and ends with him getting beaten up by the police while singing "Give Peace a Chance."
Yeah,
that's what happens in the movie, basically.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's the same thing, a similar thing to Getting Straight, where the plot isn't really the focus. It's more about like these interactions and like these stand-ins for different political things that are happening. That, like, the character writing isn't the strength here. It's more about being in the movement with the other people together and seeing what happens, I guess, and engaging with the different topics that get brought up.
Yeah.
Um,
So it's very much very, it's like I said, it's very kind of play or TV like, kind of both very interesting because TV itself, the history of TV is interesting because it comes from radios and also comes a bit from theater. A lot of early TV directors in America were like theater people, also like writers. So you can see like very much the theater, like even like TV style of like that out of like B-net storytelling, which very kind of episodic, you know, beat by beat by beat by beat. This are like very individual moments that combine into something.
yeah.
So I think it is good. I think like just those moments are good. It doesn't really have a plot. It's more about using those moments, and I feel like those moments are good. Like when it's at its best vibing, I think the vibes are good.
Yeah. It's a very style over substance movie, and it has been criticized for that, even though I think that's also a strength. Like,
Yeah, like sometimes-
Easy Rider is a style over substance movie, and people like that one.
Like yeah, like I do think it's important. Sometimes style is better over. Sometimes you do just want some style, and like you can also just not like in the story of New Hollywood. That's a lot of style. Like I am not gonna do a rant about Taxi Driver. That movie is just basically just style. It's like Easy Rider is a style. A lot about more about the imagery, often sometimes very problematic imagery and stuff like that. That's for not the podcast. So, like a lot of it is just the imagery that sticks with you, more than just like design or plot.
Yeah.
So like.
Let's do the sexism talk for both movies real quick,
Yeah,
because I find it interesting that when I read up an interview for Getting Straight with the director and Golding, the director who apparently ghost wrote the script, by the way, like the writer who's like credited, he just got credit for like. He basically got credit so that it would use his name as promotion. So he got like money, but basically the director just wanted a scriptwriter who didn't change his script.
yeah,
But he just straight up says the main character is a sexist, and that's part of the story.
yeah,
So like the sexism in Getting Straight, in my from the intention, is like something the character has to overcome.
yeah,
Like he gets challenged for his sexism a lot by his girlfriend and other characters. It's not like he's just like this is just a way of the world. He's just like a very paradoxical man who has to figure his shit out.
yeah. Like, I guess I'll just put my as the woman as a podcast. I'm gonna give you my views. Like I've seen worse from the '70s than Getting Straight. Like it's very much like it's actually one. It's very much like I've seen a lot of media like this. A lot of media like this is still like this. It's like this is very much like I was gonna mention this, but this feels a bit more like it's a movie that feels in a way kind of like it feels very much in the lane of like stuff like this of pilots like bad man media, you know, like
Yeah, we're there aware that the guy is doing something wrong.
yeah, but like the thing is like it's like the whole like Skylar White thing where like technically you're doing this, but also. It's not even just illiteracy. I hate that word. In terms of the view, it's like you can do a thing and still fail in showing that thing is bad. And like I think in terms of bad man media, where like it's showing sexism, it's like not the worst. I do think it's very much like a male perspective on like why sexism is bad because like that. But I do think it has interesting moments. And that
it at least engages with the idea that that maybe this guy is talking out of his ass.
Like I've seen worse and worse even from the '70s. I've seen a lot of shit like this. It's like as like a woman, it's like very like kind of feels even more insulting than straight sexism. Like, see, I understand that sexism is bad. I'm gonna have my guys just be sexist for most of it, and then just say sorry. I'll say this: the guy in Getting Straight at least understands his sexism is bad more than just in the end of the movie. It doesn't feel like, well, I'm good now, at least. It feels like part of learning about this. It still has issues, of course, like how it depicts only a couple women, like just the only black woman shows up to sleep with the main guy.
For
like,
sure.
Stuff like that, but it's not the worst, and I do think it's trying to, in terms of doing that, it's very much like it's trying, and like in the way it's trying, it's fine. I don't think like a lot of it is because Elliot was doing a good performance, so if Bruce feels like just an asshole. Like actually, like just Kenneth Branagh like performance, because of Kenneth Branagh's performance, like when the dinner scene with the couple and after the party scene happens, see the Lecter calls out his sexism and literally goes on her one way, like says "fuck it, I'm tired of you, go fuck yourself."
Yeah.
And having a woman performer do such a powerful performance helps a lot.
Yeah, because
So, like-
you don't get that in the other movie.
Yeah, so like, I
Like
think
the
this
other
is-
movie just has the sexism is baked into the woman characters.
So yeah, I think it getting straight in terms of the sexism is like, it's not the worst, and I don't think I think it's critical enough that I think it mostly works. With caveats, of course, about which type of woman gets to be seen as like this, like good, carry out the sexism. But like, it's interesting enough.
Okay, the strawberry statement though.
Oh my fucking god, it's bad, Ludo, it's bad.
Yeah, because like
bad.
it's really weird and noticeable with like the most sexist 70s and 60s movies is that they can't stop talking about rape. Like
Yeah.
it's really fucking weird. The woman lead mentions like the possibility of getting raped like 3 times in this movie. And with with a smile once.
It's like so much of this movie is also just like the guy, like it's kind doing a getting straight thing where like the guy is kind of an asshole for just wanting to get laid, but also so much of the movie it is and I like the movie, but like it's so much of it is be sad that the guy's not getting laid, and I'm like. So
I mean,
much
he
of this
is
like,
getting laid. He fakes police violence to get a blowjob.
and it's like it's still seen as kind of like an award. It's like you know, it's not like
It's
that-
interesting. Like I like the friction there of this guy because he's like a stand-in for a lot of white men in the hippie movement, right? And in like
yeah.
the anti-war movement that just joined because they wanted to get laid. So I like the revealing aspect of that. Like it's not acting like that isn't a thing or one of the main things that happened in that movement.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's kind of glorifying it as like, look how cool this is.
It's very laddish, Ludo. It's very much, look at the lad, he got the close up.
Look
This
how
is
cool
kind of
he,
shit.
he said he was attacked by the police while, you know, black people actually get attacked by the police and they got a blowjob for it. Isn't this great?
It's there's knowing the things about the director and just knowing this the 70s things is like, even besides the 70s, it is part of very much of a thing of like, this is kind of shitty, but boys, lads, I'm getting a blow-up. It's just kind of like part of that kind of like, just like this very American thing, but because I mostly know this by British films, like very much kind of like bloke culture thing. It's just like, you know, it's just kind of that type of culture, and it's just like,
Yeah, it's very much a
Kind-
dude bro movie.
it's very much that, and like I like the rest of the movie. It's just wish that part isn't there because you can genuine it. Like speaking of itself, like this is genuine like the most. Like this is like this feels like a time travel place where I'm just like I got sent into like a 70s porno theater and there's like some weird guy talking to me about the Goes West while watching a porn movie type of thing.
Yeah. When we talk,
like-
when they used the term protestploitation, this was the moments where it was the most accurate.
Like getting straight is not that this is exploitation. Like it's like a very much like normal Hollywood movie. This is like kind of poor exploitation.
Yeah, this
without-
kind of like they have to put the Che Guevara posters everywhere, so you know this is the radical stuff.
This is very much like it's as most exploitation you can get without, you know, being like Nazi nuns from space or like biker werewolves from hell or
Yeah,
whatever. You
there's
know?
only one like extended police violence montage. If it had like 3, I would say, yeah, this is just a pure exploitation movie.
But yeah, like I think like it's bad. The depiction of women's bad. Most of them don't even have more than one speaking role or like one line.
Yeah, no,
If I'm
they
not-
barely get to speak except in some like political slogans they shout.
The depiction of like the also compared that was like very and like not that cutting straight is also bad, and the depiction of black people is also not that great.
Yeah, I would argue that Strawberry Statement is a bit worse, but I'm not the one who make that judgment.
Yeah, to be
It
clear,
was
both of
just
these movies
a
are-
bit more jarring. There's a very uncomfortable scene.
Yeah, to be clear, both of these movies are also not very good at depicting.
At
black
least
people.
at the end of like Getting Straight, you get the feeling that the main character and like the black guy who's the leader,
Yeah.
they're on one wavelength. They know like, oh, we gotta break shit now.
Yeah.
Because I think Elliot Gold throws a brick at the end, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he's in on this movement at the end. And with the other one, it just feels like the black movement. That's the protest this was based on, right?
Yeah.
I read up on it, and actually, there was a split between the black protesters and the white protesters after the first night in the actual thing that happened in New York,
Yeah.
because they tried to stop Jim Crow law style school to be built. And the other ones wanted to like protest anti-war stuff, and they basically modeled the message, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's very interesting. We're gonna link an article that mentions a bunch of that stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, like. But
We
yeah,
should move on to teams. We added 10 minutes to teams by talking about the sexism.
Yeah. Let's go. Teams. Getting straight.
Conformity versus rebellion played out through the events at the college and the inner conflict of the protagonist. It's basically it. This guy has to decide if he's gonna be a normie or a rebel.
Yeah.
And
It's-
he loses his shit because of some talk about Fitzgerald being gay. He just loses it.
I still don't know if that scene is that scene homophobic, Lou? I don't know what that scene even is about, to be honest.
If at all, it would just mean that I have two readings. One of them is that he can't accept that Fitzgerald might be gay,
Yeah.
and he is homophobic, and it just makes him lose his shit. Or this is the moment where he realizes that like talking about this shit to these people is not what he wants to do with his life.
Yeah.
Like this whole author theory, trying to explain everything in the book through the life of the author, and like being all academic, and there's one canon. He's basically challenging canon at the end.
Yeah.
He's basically saying like, fuck canon, fuck the official interpretation. I'm gonna have my own read on this shit.
Yeah, it's so brilliant, doesn't it? But I think overall the movie, like I think the movie does it well with the themes of like just this guy just like, like just like figuring out his life and everything. There's also elements of like this guy is like a very much like old professor, not old, but like established professor guy, and just like is he really a radical at this point? Or just like another part of the establishment, and like you can see what the movie decides in the end. Huh?
Yeah, it's a great friction that's created there.
Yeah, it is very much a movie about like just where like the very much like about baby boomer, I guess. Like just well, not baby boomer, before baby boomers actually. But like it's very much like a movie about like this old guy and like this whole generation can they understand the new generation, the radicals, in a way, and like it's surprisingly thoughtful and like interesting for that Hollywood, like I said, in terms of that, because in the end he does get an ideology, he does help out.
Yeah.
This is like interesting.
Yeah, I think that we can keep this pretty short because the movie does basically the best job of showing that.
Okay, Strawberry Statement.
Coming of age during an era of political turmoil. Because this is
It's
partially about the protests and the violence. It's mostly about this guy trying to find out who he is. Like
Yeah.
he's very much he's not very radical at the start and then becomes more into it over time. But also there's a whole like romance part and stuff which he tries to like become a dude, a man, you know. So it's very coming of age, I feel.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's like I've said. I think that this is kind of one of the best parts. I don't think it's that thematically like deep, but I think because of the vignette format, the formative episodic moments, you do get elements of like just showing this guy coming of age and just kind of total disillusionment.
Yeah, you see
Which
his
I do
like
think,
fantasies of grandeur, of like being the big protest speaker or being the victim of police violence.
so you do get those moments of the teams. Like it's not the most deep. Just not the most deep movie out there. But also I don't know. I think it's like it does what it does well.
Yeah, it kind of gives you the vibe of somebody who's in their like teens and like trying to figure shit out. Like it conveys that feeling very well.
Which I think is interesting.
Yeah,
But yeah, I don't think it's that much. I do think the last scene kind of the most dramatic it gets because like it's just so. It might be. Is it more violent than the one in Getting Straight?
they're both like equally violent, but I think the one in Strawberry Statement goes on for longer. It's just like a very long scene. It's like 10 minutes of like the police beating up people.
Yeah,
Uh,
but like the last scene is very good also. It's kind of almost fully exploitation, but it just shows violence in a very interesting way.
yeah, and like it's not a clash. It's not a faction fighting the other. It's just people having a peaceful sitting protest and getting like destroyed by the cops. So yeah, that's I guess you can say it makes its point pretty clear at the end politically. Like, oh, maybe this is bad.
Yeah, both of them actually have pretty like brutal like protesting beating scenes. Surprising.
Yeah.
Didn't Getting Straight get some post back? I think you sent me some interviews about that. Like I said some interviews.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's good to show that because you don't get to see that in movies a lot. Like the actual scope of police violence that gets
No, I meant
done.
it wasn't like some studio post back. I mean, not like the studios into what saw it.
I think they were like apparently betting pretty big on like cashing in on the political unrest and it didn't pay off.
Yeah, they did not cap the thing because here's the funny thing for that segment. There's like 6 of this. This was like a whole subgenre of like cinema for a while. We're just gonna the trend movies list for this had like 4 extra movies. We are not just gonna do a podcast about 6 movies.
We're not going to
So
talk
that-
about Zabriskie Point, RPM, and there's like 2
The
other ones.
Wibusanelli, one of them was the Wibusanelli.
Yeah, there's so many. This was a whole like micro genre at the time.
We would literally die if we covered all of them, to be honest.
Yeah, this would be like a 4-hour podcast. And we just did the Pinocchio stuff.
No, it would be 20 hours. This would be like a 20-hour video essay at that point.
Yeah, we shouldn't do that. So, yeah, I think that's all about the teams. Let's
Cinematography?
cultural relevance.
This is a very kind of interesting thing. I don't think if like this movie sort of like that much talked about. I don't think like
You're talking
Getting
about
Straight.
Getting Straight, right?
now both of these movies. I mean, I don't think both of these movies get really that talked about. But like, I don't think if you watch a movie like Getting Straight, I don't think there's a lot of stuff to culturally get from it, even in terms of movie making from that era. And I think like if you like people like Candice Berger, like Elliot Gould,
I
you
think
have
it's.
some interest in it.
I think Getting Straight is the more relevant one if you would watch it to like understand the culture of like American campus politics.
Like I think like I think this is very much kind of like I think in terms of like new Hollywood products from this year, I think this is one of the more interesting ones to just go back to because itself is kind of very different from a lot of the stuff. Like this is not The Godfather or even Easy Rider or like Taxi Driver. kind of very much itself.
Yeah, it's also like more political than a lot of the other hippie exploitation movies or stuff like Easy Rider.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think a lot of this stuff is still relevant, like the education when it comes to stuff like race in schools that gets thematized in both of these a bit.
Yeah. Like there's a lot of stuff specifically even about protests. I think like even just the show about police violence. I think this will be still a bit relevant, even if like in a band like in this category of like filmmakers.
Yeah. I think the Strawberry Statement in terms of cultural relevance is more of like a cultural and vibe throwback. Like this is more to experience like the youth culture at the time and how they felt and thought about stuff. I think it's
very much
not
more,
badly in that regard.
It's very much more like a look back at that era, like just more in vibe stormers.
Yeah.
I think both are interesting to look back at.
Yeah, that for sure.
I think Getting Straight for Soul is like the one that has much more like, some people will still probably talk about it even if it's like 10 people only or something like that.
The 10
But
people
hey,
who still talk about Getting Straight, one of them Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah, that actually this has two connections we haven't talked about. So both of these movies are based on books. I think that I only researched a bit of the books. Both of them seem to be very like loose adaptations. One of them, I think, Getting Straight is like based on a professor's actually like real experiences.
Strawberry Statement is the one that's based on real experiences.
Okay, but yeah, both of them are kind of loose. But the most important is Quentin Tarantino is a fan about this movie.
Yeah, he likes both of these.
And known like of movies, Quentin Tarantino. So there's a foot scene.
There's a foot scene in Getting Straight, just so you all know why Quentin Tarantino is such a big fan. There's feet being put into a mouth.
There's a fucking foot sex scene. God, it's like the most fucking Tarantino thing.
Yeah, it's so Tarantino.
Also, Getting Straight doesn't like women, so like, like Tarantino called us. Anyway, let's go.
There's a little clip I think I can add at the end of the episode of Quentin Tarantino calling the protagonist mean.
Meme?
Yeah, because how he treats women. It's interesting from Tarantino.
Let's go. Anyway, cinematography. This episode's going to be very long.
It's getting there.
So let's go. Cinematography.
This is where we talk about rack focus, Alice. Getting Straight. Did you know that this director apparently like popularized or even started like rack focus? Like where the focus of the camera shifts from one character or from one object to another.
Holy shit. That's interesting.
That's something you still see today. And apparently this director and like the cinematographer he worked with were like very influential on that. I'm gonna look at the name. The cinematographer is Laszlo Kovacs, who comes from, I think, somewhere in the Soviet bloc. He like fled from there and worked in Hollywood.
Oh yeah, he's like pretty
He
influential.
he did the cinematography for Easy Rider.
Yeah, he did like a lot. There's like I think there's like a page documentary about him. He did like Easy Rider. He a lot of like was a common movies. So Ghostbusters and the Zack Foster, everyone's favorite kid movie. But anyway, not the movies. Some of them very good though.
Yeah, so this movie is definitely like spotlighting that technique a lot. There's a lot of like cool focus shifts from like a character in the foreground to something that's happening behind windows in the background.
Yeah.
And it's very stylish. It's a very stylish movie, but it doesn't like go too experimental. It's keeping it pretty traditional for the most part.
The most experimental gets is like during the police brutality scene.
Yeah.
Where it's just where it goes helps along the crescendo as like it just shows violence and violence and violence.
There's
And then
like
goes
a
to, like,
big focus on close-ups in the whole movie, like character
Yeah.
close-ups.
it works like the 70s, like the low keyness of it, because it's just mostly characters like talking,
Yeah,
so it just focuses on them like as they talk.
yeah. It's very much always focused on the faces of actors.
I think it's very good cinematography. I do. Let's go to Talking Straight, because I do think it's very interesting. Also, not Talking Straight. Strawberry Statement.
Yeah, very psychedelic with a lot of like flourish. That's probably the best part of the movie next to the soundtrack.
I forgot to mention this, but Fast Was Too Fat, like the Fresh New Wave guy, was up for this movie, and very much you can see why the cinematography is kind of very like Fresh New Wave, actually, kind of very like loose, less focus.
Yeah, it's like experimenting a lot with the editing too, like cutting forward and back between scenes before like doing a transition. And yeah, it looks very interesting. I think it's actually a pretty good looking movie.
Yeah, it is.
Like it cultivates its own style that is like a little bit French New Wave and a little bit Hollywood advertising stuff.
It is very nice.
Who did the cinematography for that? It was Rolf Wolseley. No, okay, yeah, he's the director of photography though, not cinematography. I guess there's probably the director did most of the cinematography then.
Yeah. Like I mentioned, the director, like I mentioned, comes from like commercials and like TV and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So it is like a kind of very like TV. It looks like a 70s TV movie. So kind of very like pretty low budget. So
yeah. This doesn't feel like prestige or anything.
But yeah, like there's like a lot of showing of like specifically like, doing the police protest scenes, like a lot of like showing violence and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think they use a bunch of like crane shots to like move around it during the police violence scene.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. So
Very cool. Huh?
Both of these movies have great cinematography.
Yeah.
Let's go to the last section, soundtrack for Getting Straight.
This is the soundtrack for Getting. Was it the one at like the famous musician? No, that's the second one.
This is the one with like an original soundtrack.
So this has an original soundtrack. It's pretty solid. It's very 70s, but it's like very like protest like music and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's all right. I kind of miss the electrical guitar in this soundtrack.
It's very like it's mostly very much decent. Yeah, the thing that the song mostly stands up is like when like the like black student protesters are like protesting, because there's a scene where where Let's Go is talking to the dean, Dr. Dean, and there's in the background like the black students protesting, and they go into a funk track.
Yeah,
Place for a bit, and it's sexy. The funk track slaps actually. It's
a stereotypical music edit, but at the same time, it's a pretty good track.
It's just Wesley doesn't in that scene, but like as a piece of music, that funk track actually goes.
Yeah,
it's very good 70s funk.
But I don't have too much to say here. Like it's very okay, but I don't remember much of the soundtrack, to be honest.
Yeah.
Which the Strawberry Statement soundtrack is very different, because that's like all classics nowadays.
Yeah, it's like, was it like Crosby, Stills and Nash? Like
Crosby, Stills and Nash and Neil Young mostly, yeah.
Which goes into recent news since one of them died.
Oh.
I think, was it Nash?
Yeah, I think RIP. But yeah, there's a lot of there's also of course the Give Peace a Chance song by the Beatles.
I'm surprised at like how big the soundtrack is, because like it's interesting, because like I think it's the best because those scenes of just like we mentioned, because the cinematography is very loose and a lot of it is just the Bible with the scenes of like just the guy walking around New York where the camera looks at people, that the Bobby just like walks through people walking the streets, where like CCR plays or Crosby, Stills and Nash, and those scenes go very good.
Yeah, you're there for the basically Easy Rider style montages to music.
It's real good. I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's actually pretty good. Those are the best parts.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's all. Do you have any closing statements about these movies?
I would recommend both movies with the caveat of who worked on Stop by Statement and How It Treats Women. But besides that, I recommend.
Yeah, I think these are both
straight to-
interesting, especially if you want to like learn about American movie history or just American history of the like 60s and 70s and the Vietnam War.
Let's go and see what's happening here. What's happening in this land of happenings.
Let's vote for the next. Not vote. Let's RNG for the next movie.
Let's RNG for the next movie. Let's go. I put in number. Well, let me see here about this. Sorry, I just paused my thing. 145.
That's Despicable Me and Megamind.
Let's go!
Okay.
Minions!
Okay.
We gonna talk about the Minions, Ludo.
Wow, this is gonna be our breakthrough. This is when everybody starts caring about this podcast.
We gonna talk about Catholic Minion memes, Ludo. Catholic Minion memes.
And Megamind
Let's go.
memes.
Yeah, but he's not Catholic though.
That's
Megamind is
sad.
Catholic.
Okay. Thanks everybody for listening and see you all next month.
So you can find me on Twitter, co-host, Arasul of Water, Podkizoko, Twitter, etc. We can find you.
Ludovico_limited, co-host on Twitter. Yay!
Yeah. Bye!
Goodbye!
Trying to keep his girlfriend, who frankly is actually not very nice to. Candace
Yeah,
played
yeah,
by
yeah,
Candace
yeah.
Bergen.
Kind of horrible too, frankly.
He apologizes at one point.
He does
That's not-
apologize at one point.
Kind of horrible too, frankly. He apologized.